Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Calhoun's. Memorial Day weekend is upon us, and that means live music on the decks at Calhoun's on the river downtown and at the marina in Lenoir City. Outdoor dining, music, and fun all weekend long, and Memorial Day at Calhoun's. The taste of Tennessee. Get out and enjoy it as summer kicks off at Calhoun's. I want to welcome in the next member of our panel. Sitting way down there is Mr. Chuck Cavaleras. Chuck, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
The guys pointed out to me that out of habit, I said today, good Sunday morning to you. I do this, it's 51 Sundays out of the year where it's Sunday. So good Saturday to you. However, if I rerun this in July, good Sunday to you, because it'll be running then too. All right. So we went through 24 guys that were first-team All-SEC between 2003 and 2017. They were automatic bids to our list where we're going to weed stuff down. I then gave guys a secondary pool of candidates, 49 guys to choose from, somewhere around about there, and we voted in 8. Okay, now let's look at the criteria that we used here. All players during this 15 seasons, the Sports Source era, the years that we've been on. First team All-SEC, they were automatic, 24 of those. Number 2, you had to be either second or third team All-SEC. And again, that's the AP or the SEC coaches list, and we could vote those guys in. Or drafted into the NFL. If you didn't make an All-SEC 1, 2, or 3 team, but you got drafted into the NFL, we took a look at that. There were 49 of those total, and we whittled it down to 8. Let me go ahead and show you who our 8 guys were, and then we can debate these 8. The unanimous choice, it was on everybody's ballot, I think, Josh Dobbs, quarterback, of course, made it. Juwan James made it. He was second team. Josh Dobbs was second team All-SEC his senior year and should have been first team.
Yes, he should have.
There was a good argument to be made that it should have been him over Jalen Hurts in 2016, and he wound up being drafted in the 4th round. Juwan James was second team All-SEC in 2013, but he wound up being drafted in the 1st round. He's had a long pro career, which, of course, we talked about earlier. That impacts the way you view these guys. Speaking of that, Alvin Kamara, running back. You got 3 running backs that made our list here, and I think we could have an entire show debating because there are pluses and minuses for each of these guys. Alvin Kamara, Jalen Hurd, Arian Foster all made the list, okay? Eric Ainge, quarterback, makes the list. Cam Sutton, defensive back, makes the list. He got on an All-American team while he was at Tennessee. And then Antonio Richardson, second team All-SEC in 2012 and 2013, All-American for 1 year on one of those teams. So there's your list of 8. All right, so I'll let you guys discuss the 8 guys we added to the list. Dobbs, clearly that's in. Juwan James, anything to say about Juwan James?
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the draft choice in the NFL. You're talking about he's still playing. The Dolphins are keeping him. You know, the whole thing there is, like Bob said, boy, another really, really good offensive lineman.
The thing is, and I didn't give these guys criteria other than what I've just showed you. In terms of, is this best player? Is this who you'd like to watch? Is this how much stock do you put in the NFL? I thought it'd be more fun to argue it out, so I let you guys decide. For me, Juwan James wouldn't score as highly because I don't remember. There are other offensive linemen that I think did more at Tennessee than he did.
In some ways, I think you can make the argument for Tiny Richardson being the best lineman on that team that he was with for the most of his career, and I think that kind of changes the way I looked at him too. So I think James, really good college player. Maybe you take him for granted in some ways looking back at him, but that offensive line that he was on also was not tremendous in the run game at times. They were better pass protectors, I think, than run blockers. So that, I think, changed the way you looked at those guys.
That line also had Fulton and James Stone on it. I mean, it was a very talented offensive line.
Yep.
I guess I held James in higher esteem than y'all did. I thought he was a really, really good college player. But I also remember this about Tiny Richardson. There were 2 games that he played where he said, I just made me some money in the NFL. And one of them was when he was blocking against, I think it was Jones at Georgia, where he shut him down. There was another game where he shut down another opponent.
Jadeveon Clowney was
Clowney.
Yeah, Jadeveon
right.
Clowney, yeah.
And I remember him talking about, I just made me some money in the NFL. Unfortunately, the knee problem kept him out, but I thought he was a very good offensive lineman too.
Juwan James, real quick, he was one guy that I did let what he's done in the NFL influence me a little bit because I'm like everybody else. Okay, when he was here, Tiny Richardson was better until he got hurt. But Juwan James, to be drafted, I think it was 16th, number 16 by the Miami Dolphins. I could be wrong about that, but right around in there, and a pretty high draft pick. made me think that I probably didn't, like you said, appreciate him quite enough when he was here to be drafted that high and then to have as nice of an NFL career as he's had. So I did let the NFL influence me a little bit.
And
on
I
him.
was probably more influenced by the number of years someone was honored in the SEC, like
Yes.
Eric Berry twice. Eric Berry's a guarantee, but when you look at Aaron Sears, okay, I'd forgotten first team twice, all rookie NFL. I'd forgotten that. Two times, now his second team, but 2 times for Tiny Richardson rather than 1 year. So to me, that influence. Quickly though,
Yes.
Hurd,
Yes.
Kamara, Foster. I think we could sit here and duke that one out for 10 minutes. Who went with who and why?
I went with Arian Foster because I thought he was the better running back in college. I thought Alvin Kamara didn't get enough touches at Tennessee to really be great. And I do not put somebody on a team who basically was one of the reasons the team he was on got destroyed. And I think that Jalen Hurd's issues helped bring that 2016 team down. And so I'm not going to reward you by putting you in a Ring of Honor for
Well, I
it.
wouldn't put somebody on a team who quit the team. And so I went with Foster too. You could certainly debate who was the better runner, the pure runner of that. I thought Foster was a very good cutter. I thought he had a 4-year career. His senior year wasn't the best year for him, but he was very high. He would have been Tennessee's all-time leading rusher had he not copped an attitude, but he didn't quit his senior year.
Right, Hurd would have been that too, but he
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
But you could also go the other way with Foster, that he copped an attitude. Well, he spoke pterodactyl. He had an attitude here, but he copped an attitude once he left too.
did?
You sent me a note where
Yeah.
you didn't put him on your list, and
I had an asterisk because, body of work, you have him on the list. But for Arian Foster, I think he deserves a photo down at Taco Bell on the wall because of what he said about how many Taco Bells he got for the coaches for free.
yeah, because he hurt the university a little bit, or said some things that could have hurt the university, and then you also got the Alvin Kamara thing where it looked fantastic his first year as a pro, but he didn't get all the touches here. That's an interesting dynamic there
Alvin
between
Kamara
Foster.
was kind of the wild card with me.
Yep.
I mean, he was the wild card.
Well, with Foster, you've also got the fumbles.
Yep.
You
I
do?
mean, he had some key fumbles.
I
at
tried
terrible
not. I
times.
tried not to let those impact the way I looked at him, and I didn't in the end. But I thought his body of work was good across the board. But I didn't think he had any one amazingly good year. I thought that hurt him. He benefited from longevity. I thought Montario Hardesty I voted on instead of him because I thought if he had stayed healthy, he was maybe a more impressive running back just watching him.
He had
All
a
right.
great year. He had a
Yeah.
1,300-yard season.
Really
Foster
impressive.
had a 1,100-something one year.
All right, the last guy that made our list was Tiny Richardson. All right, I'm going to give these guys a choice here because there's one person that did not make the list because he didn't meet the criteria. This is the problem with criteria. Casey Clausen, never first, second, or third team All-SEC, wasn't drafted in the NFL. I think you could make a case, pretty good case, he's been your best quarterback of the last 15 years. I think you can make a decent case that Casey Clausen was the best gamer you had. I mean, the wins he had, the team he was on was probably better than some of the others.
And wasn't it kind of weird how he seemed to do so well on the road and at home? He just didn't seem to have the appreciation or whatever it was. But you
No,
look
he
at
didn't
the
have the
victories.
appreciation.
They always wanted Crompton. I'm going to give these guys a choice.
Did well against Florida. Did well against Alabama. That always helps the way you
He's
remember.
14-1 on the road.
Listen,
One road loss. That's all he had.
Yeah.
that's why I'm giving you this choice. This on our board is either going to say number 7, Cam Sutton, number 8, Tiny Richardson, or 8, Casey Clausen. Do you put Casey Clausen in over Tiny Richardson? I'm giving you one last wild card.
I would, yes.
Clausen over Richardson.
Yes,
I would.
especially position of importance.
Okay.
I agree.
Vince?
Yes.
He says yes. Offset.
From the
It's done.
wilderness.
All right. So somewhere
come from?
Mike Griffin will be happy that Casey Clausen's
And
on the
Tiny
list.
Richardson is once again
He's
hurt.
ticked off. All right. Hurt, yes. When we come back, we are going to start weeding these guys out. That should be fun because we're going to have 2 guys in each segment start nixing names and insulting people. And we're going to have 2 guys down there with a buzzer to react to the other 2 guys and their choices. And we're throwing Chuck over at the Vanna whiteboard. Come on back.